99% of your money, you'd still be a multi-billionaire.
No. And
you have $138 billion, and I can do math.
Right. If you get rid of 99%, I'd have 1.3 billion.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna get back at it again with part 2. Aaron had originally posted his version of this, but it got taken down due to community guideline strikes. A lot of chaotic shit was said, so I figured I'd do my own little voiceover on it and covering some points, which I find pretty important topic here to discuss, but also edit out where I know it would have actually tripped the algorithm. In the last part 1, if you haven't watched it, part 1 is posted. Please watch part 1 so you know exactly where we're at with this. We ended up at 35 minutes, but I'm going to rewind it just a couple minutes back because I want you to basically see where we're at with the conversation and where it's going, and just cover some points here as far as to what is being said. I guess we could do 32. All right, stay tuned.
All these different sorts of things when we're taking these drugs, because all these people that wrote this stuff, Ziggy, they're all priests. They're all, very, very exceedingly learned people that conjured up all this stuff. And so they conjured it up from the essence, which is spirit. Spirit is the essence of the cosmos. And out of spirit, then there is created the physical matter, and then we have spirits entering into spiritual matter. When a spirit enters into spiritual matter, it becomes a soul. So all living things have souls to more or lesser degrees, and the soul is the life force. If you sit in a meditation and you feel a slight buzzing and a slight throbbing, well, that's your life force. That's the energy. That's electricity in the body. That's the soul.
Take a note of that, okay? That it's the electricity, it's the energy, the essence, the life force, the soul.
And so the soul also pertains to the intelligence of the body, including the ego. The ego is a necessary requirement, and all this. And it's a very, very complex thing to be a human being. So if we're going to get to grips with it, then we have to break the components down. We break it down to spirit, we break it down to soul, we break it down to ego, we break it down to the intelligence of what it is to be a human being through our education, through our nature and nurture, through the programming. There's a billion things going on, and it really is complicated. But if I bring all that down now, that I've laid the grounding for that now, and if I look at people like Bill Gates and the global leaders that are intent on global population reduction, because when you look at the charts, if you look at the chart going like this, say like from the 1700, 1800, it's going up a smidgen like this. It's a very, very slow incline. But when it's come to the last 100 years, 50 years, it literally has gone fork off like a rocket. So they're all panicking. They're all considering this is completely unsustainable, and we have to do something about it. So philanthropists, people who care for the human being, like Bill Gates, want a population reduction.
Keep a note of that too. Bill Gates cares for the human being and wants a population reduction. You know why I ask a lot of questions? Because the stuff said, it's not consistent with the ideas that were originally portrayed. I mean, when we had this whole pandemic thing going on, I guess we have conspiracies showing that, this contributed to population reduction. And I mean, Aaron had a lot to say about that too. And keep this in mind. I made this disclaimer from part 1. I don't really care, what Aaron thinks. It's not where I'm here to basically say that what he's thinking is right and wrong. It really just is his way of thinking, but there is distortions. And here's the thing though. When you contribute to certain things that are proposed to you as an idea, you're more than likely to create that reality if you have no awareness. So why I make these videos is I feel like I must do my part, and based on what was on the mind of the light of the world, I know my son will go back and will be curious about listening to videos that I have put out. And even if we look at my position as right and wrong, my son will be able to figure it out. See, let's say, for example, I didn't have my son. Suppose that he lived somewhere else, he had a stepdad and whatnot. None of that stuff would matter because it's not his DNA. So God, the light of the world to him is me and his mother, but more me. His mom is the negative polarity, the negative nature, but the negative is not bad. It's basically there's a spot and place for the negative nature. A positive can be distorted when you're trying to be masculine and it's coming in distorted. It's toxic masculinity then, which I've made plenty of examples of this, and I'm going to make more videos on it because I think this is very, very important. Life is chemistry. It's all chemistry. But I'm going to be making points on that.
It's not because he's evil. It's not because he's a psychopath. It's not because, it's all about money for him. It's because he is intelligent and he can see because he's got the figures and he's got, all these brightest people on the planet that come together for these meetings and they make forecasts. That's what the whole World Economic Forum is about.
Well, I mean, and you're not part of that club, man. So there's a specific reason, and I see this. And I'm going to make my point now, but I see this. There's a specific reason for it and the way it's portrayed.
It's got a billion gazillion forecasts and it sees fucking terror at the end of the journey unless things are brought into line. And so, well, they need to implement that. What do? They've got to think about it and they go, well, which ones do we want to keep? Well, we want to keep the young, of course. The old, well, what are they? They're a burden on resources, on society. They're a burden on human psyche, Ziggy. I know too many people, and I only move in small circles, that their life force has been fucking drained by looking after an elderly mother or father for the past 20, 30 fucking years. It's kind of like, when are these fuckers gonna die?
All right. I mean, you can see this, the passion in the way he speaks about it, right? You can see that a lot of this sort of is in him as well. And Aaron, keep this in mind. I mean, you want people challenging you, right? I'm sure you probably have some things that you don't agree with me on, and I welcome the challenge as well. But here's the thing. We talk about, and I mentioned this at the end of part 1. You see how Bill Gates, right in the beginning of this video, you'll see that if 99% of his wealth was taken away, he'd still have 1.6 or 1.3 billion dollars. He would still be rich in like the top percentile of rich. If 99% of his wealth was taken away. So why would it be about the money for him, right? But here's the thing. This is basically how I see it. Just God was telling me. When you look at the real currency on this planet, it has nothing to do with that paper that you think you're chasing every day, and that's called abundance or wealth. Okay, but why and how does this man accumulate that amount of wealth in this lifetime, right? And we talk about just basically playing this role of God with that kind of energy, with that kind of power. But when we as humans, okay, you see how Aaron said that our soul, our essence is the electricity, the juice, basically. And old people don't have this anymore. Their vitality is low. Young people have this. But suppose it that it's all about population reduction and these people die without self-actualizing or self-realizing themselves. And this consciousness that you think everybody individually has is just one. Everybody's just like a blood cell outside of you. They're parts of you. They are you, basically. And if you're not self-aware or self-actualized, they will not be self-actualized. But one thing I can tell you, and I'm going to make a video on basically an experience I had with a dream that showed me so much, but it's all a dream. Okay, just in the dream. But these people, the old people, they die in an unaware state. I'm sure they're under medications. I'm sure they're under a bunch of drugs that keep them mentally blocked. They're not basically operating on all cylinders. They die, and that consciousness, that awareness is recycled back into a young baby. But it's the same person. You see, it's like I said, man, you're in a relationship with somebody who's toxic. You can break up with that person when you become aware, but there's a different layer of it. If you became aware that this person's toxic, but you didn't become self-aware that the toxicity still came from you, you'll attract another person, okay, the same person in another body. Okay, it's the same thing with this life. You'll repeat the same cycles. That's how the whole reincarnation wheel happens, because you never overcame humanity. That's why I talk a lot about masculine and feminine. Now, he'll mention in this particular part too that there's technology that keep these aged alive longer. But don't forget, that's another kind of juice that now is coming from those elderly people. It's not the life force that they once had when they were younger, because they're like a dying battery. But it's the anguish, the stress, the anxiety, the fear that comes with that state is another type of currency. It's another type of juice. So everything that's basically coming out of the human being is useful. Whether you're old, young, happy, stressed, because even happy, joy, all that is juiced out somewhere else if you don't even know how to use that too. But this is the real currency. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to mention a little part of what happened with my dream, because I was going to make a separate video on this. But when I'm dreaming at times, I realized, like, my father's dead. Okay, my father died in 2003. I was 23 at that time. Okay. And what's crazy is that every time I dream, and this happens a lot, in my dream, he never died. He just left, but he never died. I just couldn't find him. But at times I find him, but I find myself upset because I know that he's going to leave again, but I'm never really able to get in touch with him. Like, I lose his phone number. I'll lose his contact. I lose where he lives, as if it never really happened, but I know it happened. It's just like the most weirdest, bizarre thing. There's times that I'm like about to do something, but I did something else that led me to do something else, but I can't remember what it is, but I know that I'm supposed to do something. And that only led me to believe in that moment I became aware, and I ended up waking up because I became aware. And every time I become aware, I wake up. But it's like it never really happened. It never really happened. Now, the thing that leads me to this conclusion is that my father never really died. But I had an awesome relationship with my father up until the day he died. Awesome. My dad raised me. My mom and dad got separated, and I ended up living with my father throughout my teenage years. They broke up around my teenage years, and I ended up living with him up until he died. I actually ended up moving out, and I got my own apartment at about 21. But he died when I was 23. And up until that point, I mean, he was so lively. You know, we were doing things. I actually was a mechanic. I was hooking up cars. But we went to watch Fast and the Furious, me and my friends, you know what I'm saying? And it's funny how my dad at that time was much older, you know, than we were, but he still hung out with us. But, you know, that's how cool he was. But it's like in my dreams, he never died, you know? He never died. Everything's just... from what happens here in this waking state that I'm in, it bleeds into my dream, but it's like I have a memory of him dying, but in the dream, the story's changed to he never died, he just left. And I believe it at that moment until I become aware I'm in the dream, and then I wake up. It's sort of like in this moment now, where he talks about the human being is so complex to be human. I mean, when you just completely disconnect from this, like even through meditative practices, or how these spiritual gurus, they'll tell you to just breathe and just be and observe your thoughts. You know what I'm saying? And start to actually, whenever you do generate a thought, like think for yourself, think outside of this bubble of humanity. It's somehow you just get like a remembrance of some sort, and it kind of has you peek into what really is, what you are. And you'll see that everything is just, you're just living in a body, and you're observing the blood cells, the cells of your body in real time outside of you. Okay? And I've made videos about the kind of people you'll encounter, whether it's low vibrational, high vibrational, but that all comes down to the awareness of what you are first. Because I had this one guy, his mantra is, influence, what is it that he says? Influence stimulates thinking, thinking influences behavior. But even that, you're not noticing like what is influencing you. It's you influencing you. But when you're aware, like it says your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So a frequency, for example, is a level of vibration, and there's an infinite number of frequencies. But when you're aware of where you're at, and you can like literally start to think for yourself, like get out of that situation by actually thinking for yourself, because the only reason you're in that situation is because you're thinking like the environment, but the environment is still you. So it's not to point fingers at the environment, but you become aware and you come out of that cycle. So you overcome that. You had a death to that. The old you died. You're no longer that person. So now you're in a new state of being, right? Because that's all it is. It's just a state of being. It's not really complicated like he explains here. You're just aware. When you become aware, you can have a paradigm shift where it happens in an instant, but you become aware. The same way I became aware in the dream, and all of a sudden I just happened to wake up. But in the dream, it was real stress, real anxiety. I believed it to be so real. I couldn't remember what the fuck I was supposed to be doing. Or an event is coming up, but I don't remember where it is. And it's just like, it's crazy. But, those scenarios, people will say, oh, you got to decode your dreams. They mean something. But sometimes the actual experience, because it really doesn't matter who's in it, what's in it. It's when you pay attention to how you're feeling in that moment. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. But that also, like I told you, the scenario that happened here, my father dying, bled into a scenario in my dream, but it morphed into something else, is exactly what's happening here. You're observing your reality. You're collapsing it into existence with your perception of how you see things. But when you literally just stop and just be, just breathe, everything just happens to look different, It's like almost like your environment just became aware of you too. Because in my dream, when I remember in one of those lucid dreams, I became aware. It's just like normal. Like, let's suppose that I'm in a city, you're just walking around, but I became aware, and everybody all of a sudden became aware of me, and everything changed. And then I woke up. Like my humanity kicked in or something. So it kicked me back into this space of being human. But I wasn't human in that state. But I became aware that I'm in a dream. What happens if you become aware that you're not human, but you actually sit this through meditative practices and realize that you're God? Well, everything will start to look different. And in fact, if you're really genuinely trying to help and wake people up, or is it just ego expression that you're trying to passionately shoot some shit out because you're trying to be innovative? It's just all ego. It's more mind viruses. And these things are attractive to people if they're asleep, because it's negative energy. Negative energy is attractive. Sometimes they're not in the state where they love God. And in fact, they may hear videos that are self-empowering messages, and that's not even good enough for them, because since they're not in that state, that's not attractive to them. They need to hear the conspiracies. They need to hear the aliens are coming. They need to hear all that. I've made examples of even that being a projection of what's within you as well. Those things you see in the sky are your basic ideas. That's all it is. You can look at the stars. What the stars looks like my fucking brain. It looks like the neurons in my head. You know what I'm saying? And then you may start to see a light just start to move around, or you may start to see a shooting star. I don't want to make this video crazy, going off basically off topic, because, you know, I was going to make a video of that in and of itself, but, you know, when I'm just led to speak, I mean, it's just got to be. And there's people who may even want to hear the conversation straight without so much of the voiceover. I can't do that because it will get taken down, because YouTube already took it down. So you may as well listen to my beautiful voice. If not, then you know what to do.
You know, it's incredible. There's one woman, she's 65 years old. I've seen the life drain out of her. She's the daughter of this 88-year-old woman. She's coming round every fucking day with shopping and fags and fucking whiskey and this and the other. As soon as she walks in the door, the old woman's like, oh, you've got the wrong cigarettes, or you've got this, and oh, my hip here, or, you know, I'm constipated, or fucking hell. Is that what her life's about? It's brought her fucking down, and it sent the mother of my daughter into hospital for a nervous breakdown. And this stuff is going on all over the world. So there has to be some rational application into this. It's a vast amount of resources with nurses and carers and properties and all this sort of stuff. So we've got to look at it rationally. That's what I'm saying. And as a rational thinking person, devoid of emotion, oh yeah, sure, we all kind of love our grandmothers or our mothers. In what way? In what degree? Let's ask everybody. Okay, we can't keep everybody. Who do you want to lose? Very, very quickly we'll know where the love resides. You're keeping your kids. And you're going, well, mum, dad, you've had a good life. And even if you had a shit life, you know, it was your fucking life. You should have made more of it. There's nothing to their lives now except the burden on human resources, on monetary resources, on energy, psychic resources. That's what I'm saying. It brings people down. People are not free to live their life. So how do we do this? Well, we've got to do it as compassionately as we can. Now, I can go on a whole fucking hour about compassion because I don't believe it exists. It's just a word, it's just a term, it's just a concept that people think is real. But when you look into what is compassion, if I ask you, what's compassion? Let's just, for instance,
Yeah, compassion would be you feeling something for somebody who's in a certain state, and you feel like you want to do something about it to help them.
Okay, great. Now then, is that useful?
No, because that you're actually not helping them out. It's like trying to give money to a homeless person, but you're just like,
That's it. Thank you. That's why I love speaking to you, because you're a rational, intelligent fucking person. So we get to the crux of it very, very quickly.
But here's the thing. Let me add a little layer to this, okay? Because I had the answer rationally, right? But even the compassion could just be where he talks about how the old people are complaining, they're miserable and whatnot. You know, part of that compassion could just be letting them be. You know what I'm saying? Letting them be. Why would you engage with a person being negative? It doesn't have to be an old person. There's many young people who walk around complaining about life, and they got a hard poo and all that bullshit too. You know, and what do? You just engage with that? I mean, and to be honest, you don't even experience that. You know, what's crazy is sometimes I see old people in the supermarket as I'm shopping, and I see old couples. And I remember we came across an old couple, my girl and I, and they were just shopping. And then all of a sudden they looked over and they just greeted us. And I was like, oh, yeah, how you doing? And my girl started getting into conversation with them. And they were like, oh, we've been together for, 47 years now. And this has been my sweetheart since. I mean, the story was pretty and everything. And what I'm like, damn, bro, my girl and I have only been together for 14 years. And it feels like a fucking lifetime, but they looked joyous. They looked happy. The type of people you'll meet, whether it's older people or younger people, is a reflection of yourself. Because if you're miserable, it doesn't even have to be old people. It could just be young people you'll experience like that too. You can experience angry people on the road. You can experience people, when you're shopping, they're just angry. They're just mad. And I've done a lot of science experiments with myself on this. And you are basically in a certain state These people are nothing but versions of you showing you what you are. And when they trigger you, it's a very direct sign that it's you. And you maybe want to look at that a little bit closer because it triggered you. Because it's letting you know, like everything speaks to you. That's why when you listen to information that's impactful, that can benefit you, right? Suppose that you're listening to it open-minded as a child, but you're in a high vibrational state, it's going to feed your soul. But if you're in an egotistical, adversarial, toxic, masculine state, it's just going to basically, you're in your ego, and you'll notice that. I mean, it's just, again, awareness. It's not that complicated.
Okay, so, well, what would we do if someone is suffering in our family? We'd ask them, what's happening? Oh, I've got a pain here. I can't do this. I can't do that. And then we'd go, okay, well, I can do this and I can do that. If you're willing to help, then you apply action. It's action that they need. It's not your fucking compassion. Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Anyway, bye. I've got to go shopping. What? That doesn't work, does it? How many people out there, fucking idiots, talk about being compassionate and loving for mankind and don't even drop a pound or a dollar in a paper fucking cup? What sort of compassion are these people talking about?
It's all ego too.
Sorry?
It's just like, it's all ego anyway.
Yeah, it's all ego. They all want to maintain that they've got the compassion of Christ within them, and they're Christian, and you look at how they live. There ain't no fucking Christians there. You know, it's the fucking devil if you ever saw it. And so, you know, this is the sort of thing I'm saying. And so we're getting to a point now with the human beings where our technology and our comfort level, due to our affluence, is causing longevity, which isn't a good thing. The vast majority of people, all you got to do is go online and you got to go old people, illnesses or suffering or this and the other. And you see these faces, you know, you go on one of these free pictures things, and you got faces like this, and faces like that. Oh, and then you got their sons or daughters standing next to their bed. Oh, faces like this. Well, who wants to live like that? You know, you can't do anything about a dying person. They're fucking gonna die. And lots of people, it takes many, many years. And you're like this all the time. And, you know, do we really want to be like that? Is there not another way to live? Do we not want to be joyous? Do we not want to be running with the park with the kids and thinking about beautiful things? Or do we want to be concerned, oh, I've got to go and take my mother, and when I go round, she's going to be telling me about her suffering, and I've got to feel compassionate, otherwise I'm a terrible person. No, you're not. You don't have to feel anything. Just you going round there with the shopping is enough. Leave the fucking emotions alone. It'll kill you. It'll destroy your life. That's what I'm saying. How does that sound from a rational application?
I mean, it sounds rational. You
Yeah,
know,
but you know what I'm saying is, Iggy, you know, just if you convey to someone, oh, what does it do to them? You know, I write about this in my book. Funny enough, I've got scenarios in my book whereby if I'm ill, do I want to bring everybody down? If I'm suffering and I can't get out of bed and I'm calling my daughter or my neighbours or my friends, and when they come round, it's like, oh, my pack's terrible. And he says, oh, could you pass me this? Or could you do me that? And then what am I trying to do? I'm trying to impose my negative energy in their psyche. So then they go away and they're carrying it. No, I don't want to do that. Why would anybody want to do that? That's the fucking devil. That's the demon that would do that. If I need something, I phone up my daughter. Daughter, oh my God, I'm in bed with my bad back again. Can you bring the piss bottles? Sorry, you know, and then she says, oh, I can come tomorrow. Don't fucking worry about it. I've got water, I've got piss bottles. That's all I'm going to need. I'm going to be here for a week or 10 days. There's nothing you can do about it. Go and live your life, right? I'll meditate, I'll watch videos and this, that, and the other. That's how it should be. And so people have to get into that mindset of start bringing everybody down.
so, man, here's the thing. Is it all about resources? Is that what it is?
It's about so-called physical resource, but it's also about psychical resources. That's what I'm saying. It's about our life force, our resource. If we are brought down through our compassion and we're all sad and we're all feeling low because we're feeling everybody else's pain, well, where does that take anybody? It doesn't take anybody anywhere. So look, when I went into hospital, and I write about this in my book, I use all these scenarios to get through to people. When I went into the hospital, I got first class assistance from everyone. They were all very, very professional in their job. What I didn't get, under no circumstances ever, was an ounce of compassion. They never exhibited compassion. They were professionals. And when I told them, I feel like swallowing my fucking tongue, I'm going to go insane with the pain here, I would get told, you've had your quota. Deal with it. Same as everybody else. And I'm
Well,
like,
because
look,
it's, I mean,
fair enough.
everything's a business. You get what I'm saying? And so look, I'm a big marketing guy, and even with marketing, with anything that has to do with business, you can never have emotions in that. You get what I'm saying? Like a good, even like let's say selling, marketing, it's all
But okay, look, you say business, but these people, it's their jobs, it's their vocation, and they've chosen it for a particular reason because maybe they feel a little bit compassionate, but they ain't bringing themselves down every fucking hour of every day with the compassion because it would destroy their soul. So therefore, they've got to turn the compassion off because they know it doesn't serve them and it doesn't serve them. What serves them is their professionalism and the application of it. And so that's what I'm saying. Forget about this bullshit compassion. It's not worth anything. It's a misnomer. It's a fallacy. It's just one of these.
I know I let Aaron talk a lot, man. I mean, you can see I haven't gotten a word in there, but look at this, for example. You know, when you go to work and you hate your job, that's due to lack of that's unawareness. You're not aware of what your gifts and talents are. You notice how if you work and you find out you're doing your life's mission, it doesn't even feel like work anymore. You're just doing what you love. And money is not a thing, right? But the money tends to be an after effect. As a success, you tend to make a lot of money because money is love, money is neutral. Because, I mean, for example, you can make money in many different ways. Low vibrationally, you can make money too. Cartel members made a hell of a lot of money, didn't they? It's all short-lived though, right? So here's the thing. When you're doing, what you're passionate about, money is not a thing. So it's not about the money. He said before that for Bill Gates, it's not about the money. How does he get to this kind of wealth? Well, it's the same way. If you're doing what you love, you're sort of in a God mode state. You're not at the mercy of anything because you're doing what you want to do, right? So you're in your balanced feminine and masculine state, and you're taking action, which is a masculine act. You're doing what you know you should do and what you want to do, and the money is an effect of that. So you're in God mode. When you go to work, and the majority of people do this, and you don't love what you're doing, your price tag on your experience is what you're getting paid. That's what your price tag is. And it's sort of life draining. It drains you spiritually too, mentally and all that. You tend to lower yourself in consciousness also. And this is a form of selling your soul. When you don't become self-aware or self-actualized and you die and you're not aware of yourself, you have given yourself away. Your soul is gone, right? And it's not to say that it's gone in a way like it's gone somewhere. It's just not. You're not awake to yourself. You're awake to the lights and the illusions of what's going on out here, but you're not awake to self. So whatever consciousness you acquired here you didn't overcome humanity. That's why I said you get recycled back into the same system. And that all comes down to belief, but belief starts from what you believe is happening now. You believe you're a human. You believe you're a real boy. You believe you have to go to work to sustain a fake ass system of a matrix that we live in, right? So you have to go work for the dollar. Society tells you that a real man has to provide for his family and give his, family, security and stability. So you have to go bust your ass and go to work and all that, right? But that's what society tells you a real man is. And that's not what a real man is. That's what a slave man is. But A real man knows what he's supposed to do here. And it's not supposed to ever require feeling like you're working. You know what's funny is it's all indoctrinated from when they tell you the pyramids were built by slaves, that they built ramps to get these structures up and whatnot. When even in today's technology, you still can't replicate the design of these pyramids. You know? I mean, I'm talking about aligned perfectly to the star constellations, perfectly aligned to basically see the rise of the sun at a certain angle. The chambers inside are aligned the specific perfect way. Yet the stones that they used, the limestones, weren't found within 500 or 600 miles of the building site. But how did they get them there? You know, and did you see the size of these stones? But we buy into these stories, you know, just like you buy into the story of Santa Claus, you buy into the story of Jesus Christ. These are all symbols, though. It's symbols, including what they're telling you about the pyramids being built. Only they're telling you that it was built by slaves, okay? But it really was not. You see, we were able to move things and, build these crazy structures at one point in time using the technology of our bodies, right? But we forgot how we were supposed to be using it because we started to disconnect ourselves from God. You see how they say man created in the image of God, right? When you look at the figure of Jesus Christ, that's a man. That's a picture of a man, okay? If I, for example, just woke up, say, and I come from another planet, and I come here, and they tell me, hey, who is this person? And they show me a picture of Jesus Christ, I'll just be like, oh, that's a man, like you. But when we look at the image of Jesus, right, we have this God perception about that image. But that image was created in your image. That's why the image of God. God created in the image of man. Not man created in the image of God. They anthropomorphize this. And then you go worship this. This is why you still have this worship mentality to worship YouTubers, to worship the government, to worship, presidents, to worship all these things. As if you need any of those things. So it's like all mental programming. And then they tell you don't worship yourself. What's wrong with worshiping yourself? What's wrong with depending on yourself or relying on yourself? See, all these people talk about the patriarchy system, and then they tell you that a real man is self-sustaining and a real man, I mean, you're basically serving God, an image that doesn't exist, that was created by another man. I'm going to make another video on that because even that in and of itself is feminine. God said you will recognize me by my voice. You will recognize me. And if you listen to yourself or listen to the voice in your head, okay? Whose voice is that? When you look at the image of you in the mirror, what do you see? What do you think of yourself?
Things that people have been indoctrinated into believing is a real.
This is what I was going to say. The money that Bill Gates makes, if you look at the position he is in, okay, you notice how everybody had to mandate get some type of shot or jab. And if you didn't, you would actually be unemployed. So it was all like to test your faith in yourself too. And you complied because you feel like you have to keep this job. If not, you would not be able to sustain your family. All of this tests you as far as to what position you play in this world. And you play a sheep human. Because if you refused the job and you decided to go your way, you took a position of authority. That ego expression of yourself is losing grasp. Because everything outside of you is your ego, including Bill Gates. All that is your ego. It's a manifestation of your ego. everything outside of you is a manifestation of your ego. It's not real. The real you. Once you can walk away from a fight, say, it takes the bigger man to walk away, they say. Suppose it that you're looking at all these proposals they're giving you, but you can walk away from it. You are the bigger person, the bigger man. Right? So when you look at it, Bill Gates doesn't have to work, but that money is a symbol of power. And because everybody puts their blood, sweat, and tears and their energy into working to sustain this matrix life that they have, is why it manifests as that physical symbol of power in his life. So we talk about global elites and all that. How are you manifesting money in your life? Money is a symbol of power. Are you a symbol of power? And are you a frequency match to that symbol of power? See, they say money is the root of all evil. It's not money is the root of all evil. When you go and do something for the purposes of money or monetary gains, then it's the root of all evil. Because you're prioritizing something that really has no value. It's just a symbol. Jesus Christ is a symbol of what you are. The reason you exist is because the symbol of Jesus exists, which you are Jesus Christ. That's why if you die, others can observe your death. Because you lived and breathed the breath of life and collapsed them into existence for them to be able to experience themselves from that perspective. This is why I've used the example of like the Jedi or like, let's say the Sith, and they're training the apprentice, and the apprentice ends up killing the master. Do you think that that energy doesn't live through the apprentice afterwards? How do you know your kids that you are here guiding? How do you know you don't recycle and an essence or an energy of yourself resides within them when you die? Do you build legacies? Right? The creator of worlds or the eater of worlds. I bring a child into this world. It's an idea that I birthed into existence with my negative counterpart. What is this creation going to do for the world that I made? When they talk about the world, how Eve came from the rib of Adam. The rib, they've had many accounts where this is called ribosomes. And if you look at it, you say, I give my heart to you in a relationship. You broke my heart. Anagram for heart is earth. So when you look at the earth, it's Mother Nature, the mother feminine planet. The woman came out of man, right? But that's for mankind to live in existence here and experience reality, this reality. And the woman is the physical manifestation of that negative energy that was always within Adam. When you look at the woman is black magic. The woman is the negative polarity. The woman is the Satan, the Lucifer. That's what the woman is. That's the negative nature. Now the woman supposed to serve man, right? She's supposed to submit to the man. I'm gonna make that in another video because it's gonna come down to how your reality is influencing a thought about how your true power should be used, and you're misusing this power. I made a video on black magic for that reason.
Thing when it actually isn't.
Yeah, so I'm trying to see if it's consistent, because is it about resources? Is that a yes or a no? Is one of the main reasons resources?
Everything's resource, everything's energy.
So like it's everything is energy, everything's resources. But this is the type of stuff that I hear when I hear vegans arguing with, like, let's say other people. It starts with like compassion for the animals, right? They'll say we shouldn't be breeding animals into existence, and it takes more resources and energy to basically farm these animals, then they have to go through the slaughterhouses, and then people have to go buy it, and then it puts people because it's more expensive and whatnot. I mean, I hear these arguments, but it's like I feel like everybody's almost talking about the same shit. But somebody polarizes to one idea and says it's about resources, but then they'll still engage and participate in something else that still
Well,
causes
I'm
more
sure.
resources to happen.
I feel quite confident that if people are vegan, it is because they don't like the idea of killing animals, and they don't
Mhm.
want to be responsible for killing animals.
Right.
So therefore, that's a passionate thing, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's a
Right.
compassionate thing.
And it's
You know,
fine.
if someone said to me, we're going to start, we've decided that squirrels are fit to eat. I'm like, over my dead body, you motherfuckers. Squirrels are a very highly intelligent, beautiful animal. There's plenty of other
But
animals you can
so are
take.
cows though. So are
Sorry,
cows.
well,
So are
I don't
pigs.
think cows are. Pigs are deemed to be very intelligent. Yeah, cows, sheep, goats, those are not. And it's a case of, well, how much knowledge do they have of what's about to happen to them? They don't have any knowledge at
There's
all.
records. There's records of cows literally like knowing when somebody that was their caregiver dying. They actually shed a tear for that person. There's been actual number of records of that happening. But see, the whole thing is we only look at it from like the human intelligence. Like there's plants have intelligence. It's just that you're not going to observe the same intelligence in a plant that you would
Yeah,
in a
sure.
pig, right? But we're still
Yeah,
eating the plants. But the plants, you have to understand it's a different form of intelligence. It doesn't make one higher than the other. You still have to be consistent with your argument. If you're talking about resources, intelligence, or whatever it may be, an old person may not be all there, but it's the same way a schizophrenic is not all there. We just don't, we categorize it as a disease or whatnot. The reason I was asking this is I had so like let's say
doing the
for
same thing.
example you said wait, I just want to cover this topic real quick because I'm gonna forget, and the person you said that was experiencing their life that they didn't see sunlight, that your sister had a nervous break, what was it, your sister or the mother, your daughter had
Yeah,
a nervous breakdown for. See, but here's the thing though, like we start to talk about what life were we dealt, why is that person living that experience. I'm in my 40 years of life, I have not, and I've already seen old family members of mine come and go, but I've never experienced an old person being needy. It was just more or less like the person had their spouse, their spouse died, and then they were there living by themselves for a little bit until they finally just died, but they weren't a burden on anybody. They were still self-sustaining. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who becomes old and senile, there are reasons for it while they live their life, right? But then there's a person who has to take that baggage. See, this is the purpose of what I'm talking about when it comes down to what's going on the planet overall and what were the odds that that person had to live that life. I'll give you an example. A person in jail is going to be in jail because they committed some type of crime. Something happened that they made a negative choice. They gave into some type of negative nature, which is still all of the feminine nature because it's animalistic. If you can't balance out your animalistic tendencies to live conducively here in the realm of light, right? They got taken away and put in a cell where they're deprived of the light, so they cannot see sunlight too. Now they're suffering and living there, and they just have to deal with it, right? They have to complete their whatever sentence they were given, or even life sentence. I'm always looking at things. If we're living in a human realm, there's no cause of anything, but in the human realm, we're looking at everything as far as cause and effect. The pendulum swings one way, and actually, the whole hermetic principles that we can look at. All right, the law of mentalism. The mind is all. The universe is mental. You speak on how this world is Maya. This world is illusion, right? You create these illusions with the observation and with the decisions and choices you make. Without the awareness, there's no masculine energy. You're just unaware of the things you're doing. You're just basically going about the motions. These people are living those experiences, and the people that I have observed in my life living those experiences, they're just unaware. And first of all, they fell into that space. All the patterns, like I said, led them right to that point that they're living that experience to become aware of how terrible and miserable they're living, right? Now, the other person, for example, the old person living in that state is living in that state for their personal reasons. Everything's bro. This world I'm looking at it is designed perfectly. Everything has to be, has to happen. Everything has to exist in order for the opposite to exist. As far as the loving state, the peaceful state that you're living in, you said you're about as stable as it can be right now, and I can see it. You get what I'm saying? I'm making more money now than I've been before. But somebody beat, you know what I'm saying? For me, even have the contrast of saying I'm making good money. But either way you put it, when we sit down and say, I'm going to sit down and have this argument and try to dissect what the logic behind this reasoning is, right? personally, like I made the disclaimer, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I'm just basically wanting to talk about it because the way I see it is like this. Christ was a healer, but did Christ heal everybody in the same room? No, he only healed one person. And because that one person was healed, it becomes a vibrational contagion where everybody seems to heal based off the same vibrational state that that one person who was healed was, you know, was given off. But it can also be in the opposite state. One negative thought pattern can spread like a mind virus and create the zombie apocalypse all over again. You know what I'm saying? And this is what happens. You have things being proposed to you all the time. There's a lot of information everywhere, but it is terrible information, man. And masculine energy is about knowing what's coming into your space and what's coming out. What do you allow in? The subconscious mind is like the bitch with her legs open, bro. You just let it in, you impregnate that bitch, and that's what's coming out. You know what I'm saying? That's the reality you live. Now, I've observed this. I very, very much paid attention to certain thought patterns I've had. Just like trying to be a scientist or an observer or whatever you want to call it. That's why I'm here talking about it. Because if I didn't, I feel like I'm certified. I self-certified myself to be able to talk about shit like this. But aside from that, I've actually been certified in hypnotherapist, how things can change just upon, you know, persuading or impressing the subconscious mind, but actually getting the ego out of the way, right? But it takes trust in the individual outside of you as yourself to be able to bypass the security guard and get into the subconscious mind to put in the right programming in there. You're just like a computer, but your mind is just, you're like a brain walking around deciphering and decoding your reality, but who's the programmer? Who's the one doing it? You get what I'm saying? Like when you get into this world, you're growing up, you're guided by your parents who are basically God. They're guided by the government. The government tells you about God. It's like a hierarchical order, right? Christ
And you
and
go to
man over
school
woman, but it's
and your peers and everything. Yeah, everybody's programming us. We're being
everything.
programmed from the cradle to the grave. Now, this is something that I knew I was going to be speaking to you about during this
Hmm.
conversation, because we all have a individuated speck of consciousness. We've traveled our individual journeys and we have our own perception and way of seeing things premised on that. So, I mean, as far as free will goes, I don't believe there is any, because everything I'm saying now is attributed to all the things that I've done in my life. You know, my parents, both of them killing themselves. So I don't have any old people around me. And so that, you know, diminishes the level of compassion that I ever would have had for them. And, you know, I believe, you know, a bit more like a warrior, that people are going to take responsibility of themselves, not to burden their family and friends. It's like my sister. I'm not burdening anybody. I'm not burdening my two beautiful kids. When I'm fucking useless, I'm out of here. I'm not detracting from them. And so I would pose to people, do the right thing. Just educate them and say, look, do you really want to? Do you know what's happening when your son or your daughter invariably is coming round day in, day out for years and years and years and years? Hi, mum. Oh, can I do this, mum? Oh, do you think they really want to do it? Don't you want to just cut them loose? Do you want to cut them loose? And if you think your life is so fucking valuable, then, you know, pull up a good reason as to why it's so valuable. You know, like this old lady here, the only thing I ever see of her, just an old claw. Opens the curtain and close. What's going on there? And yet she's got carers going every single day. I just think that we need to be educated. We need to have options, because the human being, you know, they need to have things laid down very, very plainly before them. And I think that if the world started to get educated, particularly in the West now, because, you know, in other countries, they've got a very, very different way of doing it. They don't carry the dead. You know, and the dead do the right thing. They'll walk off into the desert on their own when they know they're being a burden. They've got this state of honor. Our honor's gone. It's in actual fact, I speak to these old people around here, and it's like they've got no concept of how many years they're going to keep living and suffering and be a burden or anything like that. I tried to speak to them about it, but it's like it's a question they've never asked themselves. Am I actually enjoying it? Do I want to continue? If I have the option, would I opt out? You know, it's not something that's inside their heads. It's because they're automatons. So when you look at these automaton, they ain't never going to do the right thing. They're just going to keep going on and on and on forever. So therefore, someone else who is a little bit more savvy has to make those choices. Now, if you've got people and they're playing crib and they're meeting people in the social and, you know, the compass mentors, great. Okay, fine. But what I'm saying is let us start like the world is. I'm no different to the world leaders. I'm seeing it as global as that. I'm saying let us start by educating people into this and giving people the option. Now, where do you stand on giving people the option? Do you have parents, by the way, Ziggy?
Yeah, I just my mom. My father died when I was 23.
Right, so your mother then, if she starts to really, really suffer and she's, you know, she's falling over, she's telling you she's in pain every day, she's miserable as fuck, wouldn't you feel the compassion to say, well, there is an alternative, Mum? You know,
So I mean,
wouldn't you?
so yeah, I mean, my mom's old and she's got knee problems. She's got a bunch of problems, but that's my point. She lives by herself. She pays her own rent, does her own things. Nobody helps her. You know what I'm saying? I go over there and I
Yeah,
visit her and I help her when I'm there, as far as like, you know, buying stuff for her if she needs it, or going to the store for her because she can't walk as good anymore. But she doesn't ask me for it. But that's my
but she's not
point. Like,
dependent on anybody.
she's not dependent. She goes to the doctors on her own. She does what she needs to do.
Yeah,
But
that's perfect. But if she was highly dependent and she was suffering all the
I
time,
don't think she would let me know that she needs dependency if she needed it. That's the thing. See, my point to that is that
And I apologize to Aaron. I realized I didn't even answer the question. But yeah, if she was highly dependent, I would not offer the option for her to, you know, end her life. I mean, it's not ego either. You know what I'm saying? It's just she's still waking up every day because she has to. That's the way it's meant to be. You know, the cells of the body will just stop producing enough energy to keep the body alive. I mean, when the time is up, you know. Who determines the end of the world? You know? So no, I would not offer that, you know, that option to her.
my mom is she's kind of what's the word I want to use? Uh, she doesn't like to show much of, like, let's say she needs other people. You get what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
I guess stoicism, you know.
yeah, yeah.
she doesn't
Again,
want to be a burden on others. She doesn't
yeah.
want to be a burden on others.
But
She'll
why?
let me
She's got
know
a
that
high
when
level
she's
of
messed up, she'll let me know. She'll tell me, "Hey, man, my knee is jacked up and blah blah blah." She's got to get
yeah,
knee reconstructive surgery or whatnot, but she doesn't call me to tell me that. You get what I'm saying? She calls me just
yes,
to, like, "Hey, how you doing?" Like normal shit. Like if I'm talking to a person, normal young person, she's got problems, but she won't tell me her problems. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And if at times we do get into it, she doesn't overdo it. You get what I'm saying? Like, and I appreciate that about her. But here's the thing, though. I also know of other older people, and the other older people I know are also in that same state. Like I meet old people all the time because I work in the health and wellness industry. They've got their problems, but they're pretty strong. They're pretty built up. They feel good. You know, they talk very positively. But if there was ever somebody who was contemplating death, honestly, I would look at that as some form of mental disorder, because it's like this, man. If you have dramas and issues as a young person, it's no different than if you were older. You just have to come to terms that you're old, you're breaking down, and it's part of the process. You know what I'm saying? But you don't have to go out yourself. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to, commit. It's a form of suicide. If you look at it, you're making the decision to go, but you're having somebody else give you an injection to do it. So it's still putting it on somebody else to pull the trigger. In other words, you get what I'm saying? And
well, that,
that's the problem that I have. Like, if they want to kill themselves, like, let's say, uh, why don't they throw themselves off a building? But then that's also a big problem, because here's the thing, though. You said you have no problem with people committing suicide. Am I right or wrong?
yeah,
So here's the thing with suicide. You said the kingdom of heaven is within you, and this is why I like to test the consistency of the things that certain people say. The world you project from within you. And everything I meet outside of me are versions and mirrors of myself. And I'm telling you, God spoke to me about this. And I actually observed this in meditation in real time. It all happened like literally simultaneously. And if I was to ever kill, and this is why I feel like religion, spirituality always talks a certain way about people ever outing themselves, because I look at it like this: if you kill yourself, you end the world. Like, you literally kill the entire world. There is nothing outside of me that's going to continue from my perspective if I out myself. I literally killed the entire world with me in it. Everything I know of that I ever existed, I created and I
You
destroyed
killed
everything.
your world. You killed
I
your
killed,
world. Yeah.
right, but the reason you exist and continue on after I go is because I existed. You get what I'm saying? That's the only reason you continue. If you die and I observe you die, the reason that I'm observing you die and I continue on and I don't go with your world, because you ended your world. Everything finished. From your perspective, nothing exists anymore. The world is done. I didn't exist because I never even existed that I'm talking to you right now. I still don't exist. But the whole thing is that you only continue because I existed. And if I was to observe you die, I'm gonna say thank you, Aaron. Because of you, I'm here. And this is why I feel this whole Jesus Christ thing happened. Jesus Christ is nothing but a representation of what they're speaking of. That we are all walking Christ. We are all walking Jesus Christ. Jesus died for the sins of the world. Jesus died for you to be able to live everlasting life, whatever that may be. The way I interpret that and I decode that is that we are all God. And the reason I am here is because of you. You're making me exist right now. And if you die, I continue on because you existed. The same way my parents, I created those portals to exist this life here. They were God to me. That's why I depended on them growing up. They took care of me unconditionally. They nurtured me. They guided me as best to their knowledge that they could, right? I believed everything they told me. I looked at my dad as a superhero. Don't we all look at Christ like that? We look at Christ. Actually, the whole mirror of Jesus Christ is Superman. Superman is the one that in the comics, if you look at Superman, he's actually the mirror of what they represent as Jesus Christ, right? The savior of the world, the light, the sun. Because Jesus
Yeah.
Christ regenerates in the sun. It's all symbology. That's why I talk about symbolism. Nothing really here. We're only, the brain is decoding everything as a meaning to something, but everything is symbolically happening as above, so below, as within, so without. You know what I'm saying? So when I see, for example, I've mentioned this before, when I see a person of a darker color, they're more in the feminine state of the spectrum. It doesn't mean that they're feminine. It just means that they are more into the feminine energy of the spectrum, while a whiter guy is in the masculine side of the spectrum, just based on the frequency that I'm observing through my eyes as far as color goes. But we're all people, we're all persons. So we all get treated equal. The woman is that feminine energy, the negative side, but she's still a person. She's still mankind. All that is just an expression of God in a negative form, while man is a physical manifestation of God in a positive form. But it's still all God. An old person should be wise, old, but we also guide its spirit. It's not even a physical thing that we're supposed to be really teaching an old person. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks for that reason. A person who's old is already indoctrinated. They probably don't even have the capacity to even learn anything new anyway, because their brain cells are all fried out already, right?
Okay, so I want to stop you here because
Yeah,
you've touched on something which is really, really important. But just before I continue, just going to get some water, mate.
All right, well, I'll be back too.
Okay.
This will be a perfect time for me to, chop this particular video out. But hey, man, I mean, the whole Bill Gates playing God thing. You think about it. If you die, they let you do it amongst yourselves, right? Like, they're not pulling the trigger. The whole thing that they may be doing outside of you, as far as you thinking they're trying to suppress you or hurt you or poison you through chemtrails or vaccines or whatever it may be, it's just all a manifestation of your ego. Because even if you really observe, for you to be the highest version of yourself, you have to bypass the ego. And throughout all this, all these obstacles, it is the greatest moment in time to be alive. You have to overcome all these things. And the virtue of man is not becoming emotional about it. But hey, they're offering it to you just like, God offers you everlasting life. Hey, if you worship me and you abide by my rules, my commandments, you are granted access into the kingdom of heaven. and you will have everlasting life. This here that you're experiencing is the kingdom of heaven. You came here as a child. You came here as a child. You know how they say to enter the kingdom of heaven, you have to be childlike? Okay, you came here as a child. You came in as a child, and you are in the kingdom of heaven. Okay? But the everlasting life part, it's not in heaven with Jesus Christ. See, your energy signature will always remain here, but in order for you to, you notice how you came in, your body's all small, you had limitations, but then you have the ability to do more things as you get bigger and stronger and more older and wiser, right? You notice how you hit your peak and you start declining in age. When your body starts to deteriorate, something else is supposed to expand. Something else is supposed to grow, right? That's my point. And how do you become aware of that? Huh? Were you aware when you were a baby? Are you aware as an adult? A lot of people think they're aware only because they're conscious, but they're not really aware. They're not aware of themselves. And when you decline in age, the reason you become wiser is because things of the physical realm start to go offline. I met the accounts of somebody. Again, I work in the health and wellness field. And there was a lady that told me that her father was, they live in a trailer and whatnot, and that, he was becoming senile. He was losing his mind. But in his mind, he had a brand new truck. He was living in Beverly Hills, and he was basically thinking that he was a millionaire. That he was convinced that he had a brand new truck. Go figure. And you start to see things like this, right? Where did his mind go? And his physical body is here. But how do you know in an alternate world, the many world theories or whatnot? How do you know that's not a possibility? What's funny is we meditate and we lose perception of time and space. There's times I've been in meditation and it felt like I was there for like 2 or 3 hours, and it was only like 20 minutes that passed by, maybe 15 minutes. So I'll leave you with that. And like, share. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Then we will talk soon.